The Index podcast is brought to you by our staking partner, Marinade Finance. Their latest release, Marinade Select, offers a smarter way to stake, featuring a curated set of high-performing mid-size validators handpicked for yield, professionalism, and their role in making Solana faster and more resilient. Learn more and start staking at marinade.finance. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Index. I'm your host, Alex Kehaya, and today I'm really excited to welcome my friend Frank Mong, who's the COO of Nova Labs that built Helium Mobile, which is the first crypto carrier built on the Solana blockchain. Frank, thanks for being here.
Alex, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I kind of started my career in crypto right around when you guys were, I think, making a pivot into DePIN, and it was sort of before DePIN was a thing. No one even knew that that was the phrase or the term that was going to be coined around what you guys were doing back then. But I was talking about this before we got on the show, just how excited I get every time I see some announcement about Helium, because back then I remember being in your office and just seeing these like motherboards with wires attached to them and the idea. Right. It's been like 8 years. And I don't remember if it was this year or last year when you guys announced the first telecom that was using Helium Mobile as a backbone for their infrastructure. And I just remember thinking, like, this is the dream. It's a reality. Like, how wild is that? So I just wanted to start with that sentiment, just like how I think people don't quite get how big a deal it is, what you guys have done and how long it's actually taken. So,
well, thank you for that, Alex. I think we met when we were still in the old office off of Mission Street. And I remember you came up from Southern California and we grabbed like a beer or something. And in that chat, I do recall you were very surprised, skeptical, like unsure, like how this could actually work. And I think everyone especially that kind of knew what networking was and wireless connectivity, always kind of felt like, well, is there another way to build a global wireless infrastructure than the way it's done? This was 8 years ago we're talking about, where you've got a bunch of centralized entities, large government as well as private, publicly traded companies building out infrastructure, which costs billions of dollars. Maybe trillions, no question, a lot of money if you look at the market cap of telecommunications. And our thesis at the time was, well, we should be able to do it differently. We should be able to do it in a way that is very low cost and highly distributed, not owned by one, but owned by everyone. I think that's part of the thesis we had back then. And the question was how? Like, how do you do that? And that's sort of like, I think the vision and mission that we went on 8 years ago.
Yeah. And it's just been so cool to see the dream become a reality. Through, sheer will, right, of the people behind the project, which again is like, people don't understand like how hard and now, and things are, you guys have multiple telecoms now using it as a backbone, and you've got a MVNO, mobile virtual network operator business, and that's doing really, really well. And I think people, like, again, it almost seems like it's like this classic, like, overnight success, all of a sudden it's like this rocket ship, but it didn't start there. And there were tons of skeptics, including me. And I remember those conversations. And I remember I was at Orchid at the time, and we were looking at like mesh networking. And that's part of the reason why we ended up in your office, is because some guys over at Orchid were thinking about that, and we were all building open source. And so I remember we had that was the initial get together. I kind of got the teams in a room. I think that's how it happened. I even had allocation to invest, and I didn't put it together. And it's one of my biggest misses. But despite that, I've always been rooting for you guys. And I think, I've done a show before where we talked about the genesis of all of that. And I don't want to spend too much time on that because people can go back and listen to that. What I want to more focus on today is the current state of the world. how we've talked about some exciting things that have happened with Helium, but maybe you can give some high level stats and,
Sure.
partnerships and stuff that you want to just sort of spell out for people so they can kind of understand the magnitude of what's been built.
Sure. I've been at the company for almost 8 years now, like close to when we first met, Alex. But the company's been around since 2013, co-founded by Sean Fanning and Amir Halim and Sean Carey. The team, the founding team, Amir Halim is still the CEO to this day of Nova Labs, which is the original team that created Helium and open sourced it. I think since our efforts in building wireless networks spanned quite a lot of years of really trying to find product market fit. First, just know that it takes a long time for any startup, entrepreneur, or innovation to take effect or to find that product market fit. And sometimes you don't, and many times you don't, for whatever reason. In this case, it took Helium, I would say, 5 years, 6 years to really figure out that the missing piece for at least wireless networking creation from individuals, the missing piece was the economic model. Traditional models of fiat currency, paying someone to share their network with fiat has been tried. Companies in the past like Fawn and others have tried this. In Boingo in the United States, some of the folks listening might recognize that name. But it just never really took off for whatever reason. Could be timing, could be the tech involved, could be the fiat currency model. Who knows? What we do know is as we progressed and in 2019 launched the first Helium IoT network, the act of the blockchain and crypto components that we created and the open sourcing of the hardware, as well as all of the software involved, that really opened the door and floodgates for traction. And so I would say the IoT network found product market fit in 2019 and took off. By 2021, in 2 years, I think that network was almost at 1 million hotspots around the world, serving whoever wanted to use the IoT network, running on unlicensed spectrum and had range for miles or kilometers. And to this day, that network is still alive. It's still kicking. It's still working. I think it's near that 300,000 mark of hotspots. People are still sharing their internet with IoT sensors. And the fact that the network is anonymous, it's encrypted, it's permissionless, anyone can use it. And we know government agencies use it around the world. We know large enterprises use it. So we've achieved our objective, I think, with the IoT network, which is create an open source, open project, that's permissionless and censorship resistant. All of that runs on that network, and it for us was, I think, a good catalyst and proof point to say, why can't we do this? The key here isn't the hardware. It's not the protocol, right? It's not the tech. It's actually the incentive model. This is where I feel like crypto blockchain has to be more thoughtful than just memes and NFTs. Those are fun. They have a place for sure. But I think if you look at companies and projects like Solana, Helium, I'm very biased, obviously. We chose Solana to migrate to, so and we know the team so well. So lots of respect for the ecosystem and for the founders. So it's very biased, I know. I do think creating moments where you can use the tech in specific ways are very important. And I think for us, it was using a new economic model to distribute the cost of wireless creation so that individuals are willing to share whenever possible. And that's the model. And you can apply it to anything that's networking related. For us, we decided to try that in about 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, I think. Insert that economic model into the cellular space. We tried with CBRS technology, which is an unlicensed spectrum of 5G in the United States. Parts of it worked, parts of it did not. The handsets just didn't work and couldn't transition very well between licensed and unlicensed spectrum, which makes it hard for consumers to use. So we decided to try Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi offload. And that's where we are today, where the Helium Mobile network is essentially a distributed network of Wi-Fi hotspots around the United States that's able to offload cellular traffic from a lot of carriers, whether it's big brands that you and I both see or little brands that we haven't heard of. I should mention Mexico as well, because we announced Telefónica. That was probably the first announcement of a heavy hitter, a global telecommunications company that has footprint around the world, including Mexico. And they decided that they're going to use the Helium network as an offload mechanism to reduce their infrastructure costs. And the second one is AT&T, which is the big one, where we announced a collaboration that, hey, they've tried Wi-Fi networks in the past. They're trying it again, and they're trying the Helium network and decided that they really like what they see on the Helium network side. And we can dig into more of that and what makes us different from others. But beyond the incentive model, in this case, usage of our blockchain and how we leverage Solana has really helped us. It's provided a lot of telemetry and data capture that's immutable. That to some large enterprises is super important. They need to see quality of service. They need uptime. They need to understand the network behavior, not because they're trying to spy on a network, but really simply because they want to ensure that their customers have a great experience. And hey, look, that makes sense. It's common sense. And so for us, being able to provide that to large enterprises or large telcos like AT&T is a great way to capture their attention and help them see that, hey, crypto isn't just a bunch of fly-by-night guys. And there's actually a really great way to leverage crypto and blockchain in this case to provide great customer experience for
yeah, I mean, it's. I say this all the time to people, and when anyone asks me, like, what's a real use case for blockchain technology and crypto that matters? I bring up Helium. I tell everybody about it because to me, it's the best. It's the best example of like a real problem, a real innovation that is only possible with this combination of tokens and blockchain and open source software and hardware. And it's super interesting to watch it unfold. I want to double tap on something here. I think a lot of people listening don't really understand open source. I just find it in general, people don't understand open source and its true power. But like most of the internet runs on open source software.
That's right.
And open source software has created trillions of dollars easily in value. I think blockchain technology and token economics allow this like coordination layer around coordination and an economy to be captured by more people, the value from an economic situation or an economy to catch by more people. And the software and the hardware have never been Helium's moat. That's not the moat. The traction was always the moat. And that's the thing that people, and the traction in like the surrounding infrastructure around it, which a lot of that is also open source, but it's just if any other team, I think it's like impossible for them to recreate what you guys have done. And it's always been, when I have conversations with some founders that don't understand this, they're like, well, why would I do that? Aren't there risks? And I'm like, well, yes, those risks are there, but they're close to zero, in my opinion, in reality, because the execution of that idea and piecing these things together and then actually getting that traction, that early traction, is the thing that gives it staying power. And I think people miss that. You said something earlier about the IoT network being anonymous. Can we dig into that a little bit? And is the mobile network also, does it like function similarly with anonymity? Like, what does anonymity mean there?
Right. And so when I said that, it means that companies and sensors communicating on the IoT network are anonymous. So that you, as a company or a person, individual, you can set up a server that is able to onboard devices to the IoT network. And this gets a little bit technical. Like you need to know the tools like ChirpStack and so forth. But once you do that and you figure that stuff out, you can connect your sensors to the internet very quickly through this public Helium network. And while you're doing that, really no one knows who you are, because you can make your instance and your service anonymous if you choose, for your own purposes. You can onboard devices that use that frequency and can connect using that frequency, and that can all be anonymous. It's encrypted at the device. It's encrypted when the data is flowing on the network. It's encrypted until it gets back to you and your servers in the cloud somewhere. And when you pay for that, because it costs like $1 a year or whatever to send messages every 5 minutes. These are small little tiny bytes of data, like temperature readings and geolocation, etc. Like, that payment is also anonymous because it's using Helium Network Token. So that's the anonymous aspect of the IoT network. I would say the mobile network is similar. If you're a network creator, you're sharing your network and you're trying to share your network with anyone else's cell phone. There's some anonymity to that, in that no one really knows that this is your network or your hotspot or your compatible, Ubiquiti gateway or Aruba gateway or whatever you're using. The difference here is that because it's Wi-Fi, the distance and range is far shorter. So it's like Wi-Fi range. So if you think about in your office or your home, the Wi-Fi can probably span about 60 feet, radius, maybe 100 feet, depending on the type of stuff you've got and the antennas. But that's kind of not that hard to figure out where the location is. But still, they may not know who you are as an individual. So there's a number of elements there that's different from the IoT, where IoT is like kilometers and miles of range. So it's kind of difficult to figure out where this hotspot is. It's less difficult to figure out on the Wi-Fi side and what we're doing here with the telco space and the carrier space. So that's probably the biggest difference. But as far as who's using it, whether you're an AT&T subscriber or a Telefónica subscriber or a Helium Mobile subscriber, when you're connecting, it's your eSIM or your pSIM, which is a encrypted information card that's either by software on your phone or a physical card in your phone. Those things automatically connect to the hotspot, and the hotspot uses something called Passpoint to authenticate, and that's all fully encrypted. And so the person sharing the internet as a network provider has no clue who you are, and they don't care, because what they're doing is just sharing the internet, and they're getting compensated in Helium Network tokens, and so they don't care.
I asked about this because I'm aware, especially for the IoT side of things, of some use cases. You mentioned governments, right? For like national security type things, where like that anonymity is going to be a pretty key feature for protecting like locations of sensors, for example, and like what data those sensors are sending and that kind of thing. And I was unaware that it had that feature. So that's pretty cool. I just didn't know. We should talk after this. We can talk about somebody you should meet and talk to about that. Sure. I want to dig in because I've always been very curious about this with AT&T and Telefónica and these bigger players. And you offered it up earlier. I'd love to dig deeper into what they're so excited about, and specifically how you guys got these deals done. I have kind of an enterprise sales bent, and this is like the mother of deals, right? Like super hard. These are to get this kind of deal done, and that even a test is like extremely difficult. So I'd love to understand like what is it that they're excited about, and how did these things materialize? This is like years in the making.
Sure. Yeah, I think first let's like talk about the problem statement. Like why would AT&T or Telefónica or any other cell phone carrier care, and why is this relevant to them? So I think a couple of things have happened in the last 20 years that is forcing a change in point of view or perception of public networks. Number one, all new buildings and where a lot of people live and a lot of businesses operate have had this effort of going green. And in the effort of becoming a green building, a lot of what they do is they shield their building from sunlight to save on cooling costs and so forth. In that effort to shield the building, essentially created these massive Faraday cages. And Faraday cages meaning that metal is involved. And when metal is wrapped around your cell phone, nothing can connect to it. That's a Faraday cage. It blocks all radio signals, wireless signals. Well, that's a problem if you're using cell towers that are outside of your building, whether you're a business or an individual in a residency. If you're relying on a signal connection that's outside of your building, you're not going to get it. So that's a problem that's been created inadvertently with how we build, where for things where we work and where we live. The other is technology over time becomes obsolete, and so while AT&T and others like Crown Castle and so forth, American Tower, have invested a lot of in technology and building out cell towers, which are very expensive, and they spend billions of dollars on this. Over time, that technology changes. Like we were using 3G, 4G, LTE, and all these buzzwords, and now 5G. What does all that mean? It just means that they're trying to provide more bandwidth to the individual phone because the demand of the phone has changed from 20 years ago. Well, that's expensive. That you got to upgrade that gear. That's billions of dollars more. Who's going to pay for that? Right? We are as consumers. That's why our phone plans keep getting more and more expensive because infrastructure upgrade has to happen to keep up with the needs of what we need to use. We all have to doom scroll on Instagram and TikTok. Well, that takes a lot of bandwidth because you want to have that in high definition,
yeah.
And so, which is fine. This is where the world is going, but to continue to build out that infrastructure to provide that kind of performance is very expensive. And at some point, we can't afford it. Like Alex, family of five, if your kids have cell phones, your phone bill, expect your cell phone bill to be in the hundreds of dollars per month. I think
it's already in the hundreds of dollars, and I pay for 3 lines.
There it is, so. Right? And that's common for a lot of your listeners, right? And so how do you reduce that? How do you defray that cost? What are some options? And I think
switch to Helium
I'm not
Mobile.
the only one asking that question. Yeah, switch to Helium Mobile. But look, a lot of companies are asking that question. So to the credit of AT&T and Telefónica, they're trying things outside the box, like a Helium network. If they can reduce the costs of connecting people, and think about how Helium is able to create cell towers indoors, not outdoors, but indoors. Right? We leverage technology that exists. We open source things that we've created so that anyone can convert a enterprise class Wi-Fi gateway into a Helium gateway, essentially, and they can connect that, whether it's Cisco, Meraki, Aruba, Fortinet. There's a bunch of brands out there. Imagine if all of those buildings connected and became a Helium network, then your phones would just work indoors all the time. You would never have to figure out, how do I connect to some Wi-Fi? What's the username, password? I have to give up some email to get free Wi-Fi. All of that goes away. Your phone just securely connects to any network, anytime. And that's what folks like AT&T and Telefónica want to provide. Certainly what Helium Mobile wants to provide. But that's, I think, the problem statement that we're solving for is that it's harder for people to connect indoors. There were no indoor cell towers that can make it as easy as it is to connect as if you were outdoors. Infrastructure upgrades are expensive. This is an alternative to all of that. So I think that's why AT&T and Telefónica were at least interested in exploring this to see if it worked well. I think why did it work well and why did they decide to ultimately do this is probably 2 key things. One, our network team within Nova Labs is run by a guy named Mario DiDito. He and the engineering team, development team, and the guys from FreedomFi like Joey Patton and Boris Rensky have done a great job of just making this technology easier, packaging in a way that's digestible for folks like Telefónica and AT&T. And I think that makes it easier for a company that has a lot of liability, a lot of customers, right? for them to actually accept the experiment. It's an experiment to start. And I think that the product team has done a great job of packaging that. The second piece is really the Helium community, Alex. Like you've seen this kind of community grow over the years. We just have so many people that are very passionate about Helium because they started with us in the early days, or we have new entrants, new people that have joined this effort to go build the network, whether they have access to real estate or commercial spaces, or they go and pitch companies and businesses to join this Helium effort. Whatever it might be, that movement is what really has created 90,000 hotspots in the United States since we started, which is about a year and some months ago. Those two pieces are critical for us here. So it's not like we magically just found the right formula. It was really just a kind of a really tough and hard effort, especially for the deployers, the people that we call them network deployers, the people that go out, seek out these commercial spaces and commercial networks and try to convince them to join Helium. Like they essentially had to do it with CBRS, and then they had to go back and do it with Wi-Fi. It's just it's painful, and it's part of the startup process to figure some of this stuff out. And they've really stuck with us. And I would give kudos to the deployer community, kudos to our product team to really figuring this out. But ultimately, when you package it up in a way that's digestible for Telefónica and AT&T, then it's like, then they're willing to try. Let's try this. It takes these things are like a couple of years in the making. So it takes a long time for them to go through their iteration, their trial and error, their decision to expand and try some more. But I think what makes it easier for them to digest it is that everything we do is very transparent. You can audit all this stuff on the blockchain, and we've created visualization tools like World. I think it's called world.helium.com now. Public, anyone can see it. It's all data from the chain on Solana, which makes it, that the sort of like the open source aspect of it is really important here, because then there's a certain level of trust you can have, because at least you can see for yourself that the data's there. No one's faking anything. I think that part of it has really helped with the guys like AT&T and
the
Telefónica.
Community aspect you mentioned is pretty interesting, because it makes me think of like 2 years or so into my time working with Solana at the foundation, where there would be some partner, right? I'm not going to get specific on who they were, but like some partner that we wanted to work with, and it turned out that like 5 of the people on their team were already running validators. Right. And they were like Solana maxis because they were a part of it. They were a part of already building it. And I bet there are people at all these companies that you guys want to work with now who because they're in the industry and they have such a deep understanding of this problem, and anyone can join. They just like already were running one of these things in their house. And then they advocated for you. And so by the time you've got it packaged correctly, and they see that it's packaged correctly, like you're already top of mind for solving this problem. And almost, it doesn't have to be such a top down push, because there's been so much influence from the, millions of people who've been exposed to the tools and the product by that point.
I think that's a big part of it, especially with the community. And I think, our team's ability to connect both with that community, which they're fairly technical and they're learning along the way, and their ability to connect with the telecommunications community. And as I mentioned earlier, Mario, Joey, Boris, like to us, at least internally, they are the folks that have played in that space for years. And so they understand the concerns, they understand the customer need in this case. And I think they did a good job of packaging and making sure that it's digestible, right? It's not only are the large telcos aware of us. I think of course, they're skeptical. I totally empathize with that. I would be too. But over time, if we continue to prove ourselves and we're trustworthy, then they see for themselves. They really don't need to hear from us. They become advocates for us. And I think the team has done a great job of that. So
this brings me to my next thing is the future. I wonder about this sometimes, what is the next thing that's like Helium? And I don't mean like solving the same problems you are, but that has a real application where you can combine some of these ideas for decentralized physical infrastructure and token economics and those kinds of things. What's the next thing? Or do you have like some categories where you envision some potential or see some potential? I often wonder about energy because of the AI growth of AI as being one, but it just seems so big. It's like, how do you get these? It's not like a modem you plug into a wall. It's something that's a bigger, different problem. But anyway, I'm curious. And the Enron thing was actually, I was like, oh, that could be it. That could be kind of like that. But yeah, I'm curious. I don't know how serious I don't know if I want to have like a nuclear power plant in my side yard, but I don't know. Do you have thoughts? Do you have a prediction or some things you see that have potential?
Yeah. I just a caveat, I spend very little time looking at other aspects of physical infrastructure, only because I'm so focused on the go-to-market of our own products and services.
When I was asking you that, I almost said that. I almost caveated it myself. Like, I don't even know if you have time to think about this stuff.
Yeah, I don't. But I think what I do, and I'll also caveat saying that, I'll mention some companies, but I invested in those companies. Like I went out and I purchased some of their tokens after I met the founders, because I thought, one, they were solving problems, and two, they're real people with real teams trying to attack that market. Very loose research on my part. I don't know any of these folks personally. I just have a chance to speak with them at conferences or if we're on a panel together. But I looked at Render pretty early on. Render is a company that is focused on decentralized GPU processing. I personally know about GPUs because I play some Fortnite and I build the computers with my kids. You should do that, Alex, with your kids. Build some computers, go get some of the NVIDIA GPUs, play some video games. And it really, it's a good learning lesson on how much it costs and how much power that you need and how much processing is required. And if AI continues to grow the way it does, a decentralized, I think, GPU farm makes sense. Like sharing your GPU when you're not using it makes sense. Can it get it to work? I don't know. But I placed a bet in a company called Render. And the other two that I think have tokens out there right now are Hivemapper, which is dealing with global maps, and they have a similar model to Helium. I bought Hivemapper tokens. I top blasted, so I bought at the top.
Nice.
But I think Ariel is a real guy. Ariel's solving a real problem over there. And the team is real. So I thought, why not? May work, may not work. Don't know much else about their business other than that it seems promising. And Demo is another one. I met one of the co-founders in one of the events, and we were on a panel together, spent some time talking to him. I'm trying to understand the problem with car telematics and what you can learn from cars over time and the things that you could make useful. And because car platforms are disparate, car software are disparate, and there's different generations of cars, they got a shot at organizing that and collecting that through just a community of folks that's sharing that info. So I thought that's interesting. And there's some others that come to mind around energy, but I think they're fairly early, like Sourceful and some others, Dawn, or I think it's not. There's others out there.
Well, all the ones you mentioned, except for Demo, I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to go take a look at that. But Hivemapper, I know, I don't know those guys personally. I know I've talked to one of the founders, one of the co-founders before. And then Render, I know super well. Like I know a bunch of people over there that actually I consider them friends. So I think they're two really good projects. We're kind of at the top of the show, and I always ask this. What have I not asked you that I should have asked or that you wanted to talk about? I know we covered a lot.
Yeah, I think Helium Mobile is something that's quite interesting, and it's I think caught product market fit in the marketplace. Helium Mobile is what it is it's a phone plan that anyone can buy by downloading the app Helium Mobile on all the Android and iOS platforms. And when we launched it, it was really to demonstrate to the world that anyone, any consumer can extract value out of a crypto-powered thing. In this case, a crypto-powered network. And just like before, we felt compelled that we had to prove that this model works. We can reduce cost for large entities trying to offer phone service. Not only that, we can show the world that any consumer can benefit right away because of the power of the crypto that's underneath it, that economic model that's underneath it. And so when we launched this, I think a year and 9 months ago, in Miami, Helium Mobile's phone plan, has gone through changes. We started with one plan, $5 in Miami. We learned a lot about that market. We sold hotspots into that market first to try to figure out if we can connect usage with, the supply, the network sharing that's happening. And then over time, we expanded across the United States. Now we have 3 plans. We have a free plan, like literally a free phone plan, 3 gigs of data for free every month, talk, text, no gimmicks. Like you don't need a credit card. You can just sign up, download the app, sign up, and you have a free phone number, free plan. You could try it. Think of it as like try it if you like it. And if you like it, keep it. It's perfect for kids, I think, for families, right? It's perfect if you're just going from home, pick up the kid to work, shopping, back home. You're not, out there sitting, outside in the park, scrolling on YouTube for hours. This plan's not going to work for you. That's not enough data, right? But you could buy data packs and all that. You can, keep going if you like, or you can buy into our $15 plan and a $30 plan, which is unlimited. So there's 3 choices now. That whole model seems to be playing out well. And like people always ask, how can you afford to do that? How do you not run out of money? Well, the crypto part is really supporting it. And because when you get the free plan, to get it for free monthly, you do have to share some info with us, like your location. We don't take you and your location exactly and share with anybody. We use metadata from that. And what we do is we figure out where are locations that are dead spots where we do need to supplement the network. And then we tell our deployers, hey, this part of Manhattan, this part of Seattle, or this part of Atlanta, they need better coverage. Go talk to some businesses and see if we can build out the coverage, like more cell towers indoors. And so that crypto component really funds it for us. It helps us pay for the data when you're roaming on T-Mobile, our partner. And it funds, the credits we provide. We have a whole reward system now called Cloud Points, where you can redeem for Starbucks gift cards, Legoland, Disney, whatever, anything you like. The cost of all that is paid for via the crypto that's circulating underneath. So for us, we're trying to operate this at net neutral, so we're not killing ourselves and we're not going to die. But at the same time, the crypto is what's feeding it. And so I think we don't talk about that with the general public because they have no clue what I just said. What's crypto? Or crypto's bad. Crypto's got such a bad rap over the last term with the president attacking it that I think people are still trying to recover from that, and hopefully they do. And I think we're part of the solution. Let's just show everyone how positive a crypto power phone plan can be for them. Like we could save you, Alex, a couple $100 a month. Like we could save all your listeners, right? That in the United States, at least, you could save a couple $100 a month by joining Helium Mobile.
Well, I'm sitting here wondering, like, can I offer my entire team, corporate plan or something? Because we're 100% remote company in California, so we're like required to, cover some of these costs for like internet and things like that. And it's super vague law. It's like a reasonable amount. I don't know what reasonable means, but like I'd say Helium Mobile plans for my team is pretty reasonable. Let's do that. Offer it.
Yeah, why not? It covers you, like I said, during your commute, picking up kids from soccer, grocery shopping, whatever it might be. It's fine.
Yeah. Super cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing all that with us today. And I appreciate you coming on. It's a great show.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it. Good seeing you.